that powerful statement. Mr. Meeks, if you're ready, we're prepared to receive your statement.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you for having me again before the Rules Committee tonight to discuss this cynical political exercise that, again, my GOP colleagues, in their attempt to use the United States-Israel relationship and American security assistance to advance basically a political agenda. Let's understand the context we find ourselves in today. More than 1 million Palestinians are sheltering in RAFAH, forced there by Israeli operations in Gaza during the past 7 months. With the Egyptian and the Israeli borders closed to them, they have nowhere to go. For months, the Biden administration has publicly and privately urged Israel not to launch a major offensive in RAFAH without credible plans to avoid mass casualties and substantial efforts to evacuate civilians. The United States has also repeatedly pressed Israel to cease using large warhead ordinances that result in excessive civilian casualties in densely populated civilian areas. To date, Israel has presented no plan to mitigate civilian harm or commit to not using 2,000-pound bombs in RAFAH. And that's why last week, following Prime Minister Netanyahu's repeatedly affirming Israel's plans for an all-out assault in RAFAH, the Biden administration confirmed it would restrict a small number of large warhead air-to-ground munitions to Israel if it moved forward with a large-scale military operation in RAFAH. These 2,000-pound bombs in question can create a crater 50 feet wide and 36 feet deep when dropped. They have the lethal fragmentation to a radius the size of 4 football fields. Such bombs have no place in urban combat, not in Gaza, not in RAFAH, one of the most densely populated areas on the planet. The United States, too, has a duty to make sure our weapons are not disproportionately killing civilians. Let's also be clear on what is and is not happening. The administration supports Israel's goal of defeating Hamas and its terrorist infrastructure, but nothing in this one shipment is a defensive weapon or an urban combat weapon. This decision has no impact on Iron Dome interceptors or on missile defense systems. Our commitment to Israel's defense is and remains and has been ironclad. As far as the bill at hand today, it prohibits the Biden administration from exercising executive branch prerogative and holding or suspending U.S. arms transfers to Israel, including these large warhead munitions and any other defense article. It also forces the administration to deliver any such item to Israel within 15 days of enactment, and if the administration is unable to comply, the GOP legislation immediately freezes significant parts of the Defense Department, the State Department, and the National Security budgets. And according to the Defense Department itself, withholding defense-wide DoD operations and maintenance funds jeopardizes DoD's ability to fulfill its constitutional obligation to the defense of the United States, which could cause significant harm to the United States' national security. Further, these budgetary freezes would undermine U.S. defense leadership when we are simultaneously competing in the Indo-Pacific, supporting Ukraine in its fight against Russia's war of aggression, and working with our partners in sub-Saharan Africa on security challenges. Again, this is all tremendously dangerous for our own national security. And again, what my Republican colleagues have done here is rushed without going through regular order, or any kind of order for that matter. Had it been marked up in the Foreign Affairs Committee, we would have been able to highlight that this legislation undercuts a number of crucial existing U.S. laws that are in the Foreign Affairs Committee's jurisdiction, including the Arms Export Control Act, the Leahy Law, and executive policies, including the Conventional Arms Transfer Policy and the National Security Memorandum number 20. It also places our national security at risk by withholding defense and State Department budgets and a politicized attack on the Biden administration, and that's merely what this is, a politicized attack on the Biden administration. Furthermore, the bill includes a blatantly political attack on military officers and hardworking civil servants and U.S. government employees by mandating Inspector General investigations into individuals, not agencies or departments, and orders the withholding of their salaries in a brazen and politicized witch hunt, which keeps going on and on and on again. My Republican friends seem to think that President Biden's actions are unprecedented. But there's a history of the United States withholding security assistance to Israel at times. And I recall that president being a Republican by the name of Ronald Reagan. And I know many in here call themselves Reagan Republicans. But Reagan did the exact same thing based on concerns with Israel's military actions on not one, but two occasions, in 1981 and in 1982. And let me also remind my colleagues that President Biden became the first United States president to directly defend Israel from attack, using U.S. troops and military assets to defend Israel against the Iranian missiles and drone attack that could have resulted in deaths many multiples of times on October the 7th, suggesting that the only president to repeatedly call himself a Zionist, that's Joe Biden, that the first president to visit Israel during wartime, that's Joe Biden, and then requested unprecedented aid to Israel, would abandon or betray Israel is simply absurd. And let's be clear, President Biden paused one arms shipment and said he would withhold further specific offensive weapons if Israel launched a full-scale operation into RAFAH. The president continues to be focused on the hostages and their release, and puts the onus on Hamas to reach a deal, and supports Israel's right to eradicate Hamas. But we've got to ask, the types of bombs, the single 5,000-pound bombs and 500-pound bombs in an area like RAFAH, where you may get 100 individuals from Hamas, but possibly kill 1,000 innocent victims. What we have with Israel and what we need to make sure is what our values are. And everybody's life, all life is important. And all Palestinians are not Hamas. No one supports Hamas and the vicious acts that it took upon innocent Israeli citizens. This is a fight against Hamas, but nor should we lose the lives of innocent Palestinians who were there in millions because they had no place else to go, and now being moved to a camp where there's no water, where there's no sanitary conditions, where we already, from the words of Sidney McCain and others, are looking at famine taking place. We just have to have some values, work together, and no one, the President of the United States, is not stopping on-ground attacks against Hamas that's focused. This is about 2,000-pound bombs being dropped in densely populated areas where the loss of life is in the thousands. That's not who we are. That's not who we should be. There's appropriate types of weapons to be utilized on the ground to go after Hamas, not something that's going to kill innocent people. And that's all the President of the United States said. Not turning your back on people who are innocent. People who, before October the 6th, were firmly against Hamas. We've got to think about, and this is the concern the President has, and this is what no one else is talking about, how does this end game occur? What happens in the end so that Israel can be in an environment and in an area that it does not have to worry about being attacked by Hamas or anyone else. And the Palestinians have a place, a state of their own. So a two-state solution is what is looked at in the region. And what is very important and what this administration is focused on to make sure that after this war is over, we have a better Middle East where there can be peace between two people, two countries, two-state solution, a Jewish state of Israel and a Palestinian state. That's how we resolve the Middle East. And we don't get back to a repetitiveness of war after war and innocent people dying. And with that, Mr. Chairman.